Over the past few years, there have been plenty of award shows in Hollywood that have been struggling as the industry has been facing a downward spiral, and now Disney's ABC is hilariously struggling to sell commercials for the Oscars just 2 weeks away. I have a few things to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, follow me on social media, and consider supporting through Patreon or via YouTube memberships. This article says Disney's ABC is reportedly struggling to sell commercials for its upcoming broadcast of the Academy Awards, with ad space still available a mere 2 weeks from the March 10th show. The lack of advertiser interest comes amid growing public dissatisfaction for the Oscars and the woke celebrities who have turned the once must-see event into a platform for progressive grandstanding. I remember years and years ago when the Oscars was massively popular, so many people would be excited to watch it, and also all of the social media posts about it, but now it just seems like most people do not care, and part of that, yes, is the political grandstanding. It says viewership for the Oscars is still way down despite receiving a slight boost last year from the Best Picture nominees Top Gun Maverick and Avatar: The Way of Water. Fewer than 19 million tuned into last year's ABC broadcast, and 10 years ago, the Oscars drew more than 40 million viewers. I do have a chart here that kind of gives you a general view of how bad the Oscars truly have been doing. In 2021, we saw a massive dip, but even before that, it was steadily declining. Since 2014, we had been seeing a decline, but if you look at the years before that, going all the way back to 2000, we were seeing 46 million views, 42 million, 41, 33. I mean, these are some pretty big numbers, especially when you look at how, yes, the past 2 years have been in a slight incline, but it's still not enough. And even with this, these awful numbers and this minor incline, looking back at 2021, the Oscars commercials had sold out weeks before the event, and then in 2022 the same Oscars ads sell out as Disney hopes for rebuild after ratings fall. So we have seen viewership tanked, we have seen ratings fall, we have seen ads not selling out now, which in my opinion is honestly kind of hilarious. And of course, Super Bowls have always gotten more viewers. It routinely averages 100 million viewers, where the Oscars' best year was even half that, which I know this article does mention, but it says executives at Disney-owned ABC are still working to sell commercials for the 96th Oscars, seeking between 1.7 million to 2.2 million for a 30-second spot in the event. At multiple people familiar with the negotiations told Variety, but the situation is apparently so dire that media buyers told Variety that they think ABC may have opted to opening for lower bids. And of course, by comparison, a similar commercial during the recent Super Bowl on CBS went for $7 million. So those are drastic differences here. And sure, companies are being more conservative on what they advertise because people aren't spending as much money. I totally get that, and it is 100% part of this whole situation, because things like this are multifaceted. But clearly, let's look at the viewership, okay? If I'm going to put an ad on something, it's always based on viewership. I'm not going to spend multiple times the amount of money to run an ad on something that doesn't get views anymore compared to something else. And yes, there was a bump last year in viewership from Maverick, but look at the viewership compared to all of the other years. It is ridiculously low, so there's no reason to believe this year is going to be any different. And the only Best Picture nominees with any relevance this year are Oppenheimer, Barbie, and Killers of the Flower Moon. I mean, the other Best Picture nominees here just are not very good. American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Maestro, Past Lives, Poor Things, The Zone of Interest. A lot of these have not really been talked about, and the only one on this list that I would give an award to is Oppenheimer, and I get it, not everybody liked it, but do I need to say anything more about these other movies? We all know what they are. And look, it's not even really about the movies per se. People aren't watching the Oscars because people don't care about what the actors have to say. It's become an event where a bunch of ignorant, self-important narcissists lecture us on political issues. Who wants to watch that? It's not even a celebration of movies anymore. And let's say Oppenheimer won, right? Sure, I really liked it, but I still wouldn't care about the Oscars. Just because you gave a movie I liked a bunch of awards doesn't change how I feel about this event in totality. And of course, the decline in viewership for the Oscars here mirrors the decline in Hollywood in general. I'm not saying there's not anything good coming out, but people are sick of the messaging and all of the virtue signaling that's put into a lot of these movies, and they certainly don't want to listen to actors' opinions on political issues, which is what the Oscars have turned itself into, as I've said many times before. If they really wanted viewership, they should try for hosts that, speaking about politics, are a little more centrist. Okay, there's a possibility it might bring in more viewers, but these awards in general, people more and more see what they are, and they're not watching them. People are sick and tired of constantly, again, seeing these, ignorant, self-indulgent people go up on stage and pat themselves on the back. Sorry, if you're getting paid 20 or 30 million dollars to do a movie, I don't really care about seeing you pat another guy who might have gotten 35 million dollars for a role, patting him on the back. I just don't particularly care. And then you throw in all of the bad nominations and all of the cringy speeches and all of the jokes that they try to throw in, and then of course the political pandering. It's just not what I and many other people want to watch. I mean, it's really no different than the video game awards, only in the case of the game awards, the industry is massive. I mean, looking at the numbers for the 2023 game awards, 118 million people watched the event across multiple platforms and networks worldwide when it was airing. So that's the big difference, is even that doubles in a little bit more than what the Oscars ever really peaked. So if the Game Awards lost viewership, well, they would still be taking in absolutely massive totals here. But when it comes to something like the Game Awards and the Oscars, and why I'm comparing them is because I don't think that we need these shows at all anymore. I just don't see a purpose. People do not have confidence in video game journalists. People do not have faith in movie reviewers. People do not like listening to actors pat themselves on the back, or these video game developers in most cases go up on stage and pat themselves on the back. And of course, the Game Awards has, yes, over the past couple of years, put many more political messages into their shows. And I just feel like, while yes, it is cool when they actually want to focus on celebrating video games, celebrating movies, and celebrating these mediums in general, unfortunately, a lot of these shows just don't focus on that anymore, and they just become one giant advertisement. And it's hard to believe that, with something like the Oscars and the Game Awards, that it's not just whatever company is paying to win, whatever company is bidding the most money and saying, you're gonna give me this award because we're gonna pay you triple the amount that the other company's gonna pay you. It's just hard to have faith in these shows anymore and their legitimacy, combined with the fact that people don't want to watch them because, yes, they just have become platforms for people's personal brands of activism, and even games that shouldn't end up in certain categories end up there. Like last year in 2023, there was a lot of controversy, of course, surrounding Dave the Diver and how it was put into the indie category, even though it wasn't an indie game and the company behind it wasn't an indie studio. It's just hard to look at these shows anymore and really want to support them. But it's hilarious in this case that Disney cannot get advertisers for the Oscars. And again, the estimates for this are pretty low. It does not seem like the Oscars is going to see a drastic incline in viewership this year. They are struggling to sell commercials, and it'll be funny to see what a dumpster fire fire this year's Oscars is. But again, there's really no hype behind it at all whatsoever, and even only 2 weeks away, people just have already given up on this event, and they do not care about most of the nominees this year or the event in general. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.